And we're live. Charles Johnson, how you doing today?
I'm very happy. I just tweeted that we're live. So this is one of the happiest days of my life. I couldn't be more excited. I've been smiling all day, and my cheeks still hurt from it. So
I think the lesser Charles Johnson would probably, well, at this point in the video, he's going to want to smack you. So
yeah, well, I mean, look, I apologize for gloating a little bit about the work we did scalping Menendez, but for almost, let's see now, almost 3 years, people have been saying that I was wrong about this, that I'm a liar, that I'm a fraud, and I knew the truth the whole time. I knew that the FBI was narrowing in on its target. I told people all around the country about it. I helped governments on it to the extent that I could. And even when we did this GoFundMe thing a while back, I actually used the money from that to send a private eye to the Dominican Republic to pick up some documents, which we gave to the feds. So this is a very exciting day in the history of God News and in my kind of personal life. And there's going to be so much more stuff to come out in the coming days.
Well, there's been kind of a whole series of detractors, over the past months and years, right? Weren't you accused of collaborating with the Cubans at some point?
Indeed. Well, so we just kind of posted the inside story about Menendez at Got News, which I recommend people read. And it was really kind of annoying having people slime me and reputationally kind of trying to destroy me, including like people like Dave Weigel and a number of kind of other hack journalist types out there. And many people said that I had made it up, that I was exaggerating. It was sort of like an inside joke. It was one of those stories that I had got wrong. The other one, of course, being Cory Booker not living in Newark, which I also got right, by the way. And if you remember, I did a podcast a while ago with the Ace of Spades, one of the Ace of Spades guys, where he said I'd been duped by Cuban intelligence. And like for somebody whose family has worked in the intelligence services, it was kind of terrible to have people just lie about your work.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going through the list here. It's like you mentioned Dave Weigel, Newsweek did Cuban agents plant a Daily Caller story smearing Democratic Senator Menendez. Huffington Post, Cuban plot led to Daily Caller prostitute claims. Politico is Charles Johnson, Darth Vader. Gawker, which of these disgusting Charles Johnson rumors are true? I mean, it just goes on and on.
It does. And, I said July 7th. I said when, not if, Menendez is arrested by the FBI this summer, early fall. I got the timeline wrong. He was arrested in March. I'm going to laugh at all of you media hacks. So I'm laughing right now. Egg is clearly on their face, and they don't really seem to realize the technology is really driving a lot of this stuff. I had Mormon missionaries helping me on this story. I had FBI agents. I had other reporters at other publications who couldn't get things through. I had like lots and lots of different people working on this. And what's interesting is that with the Cuban story and the Washington Post story, they had Carol Leonnig write this story. She's known in the Oppo community as a sponge, and people give her stuff all the time to basically plant. And the Menendez people were using language like, I may have been duped by a Cuban intelligence worker. And the two things in particular that came from it was anonymous sources in the intelligence services and an anonymous source for Menendez. And Leonnig didn't reach out to me, but this was the kind of attack that was used. And Menendez, by the way, has been doing anything and everything he can to avoid going to jail. So we can kind of get into the Iran stuff in a second, but basically he has sent his agents out there to fake documents. He has sent them to dupe reporters, and many of those reporters have been used to try and smear me and other independent journalists like Matt Boyle, now Breitbart, and David Martosco, who's now U.S. political editor at the Daily Mail. And the three of us sort of worked together. I had kind of a bit role, at least to start in the whole thing, because I speak Spanish, and so I was able to kind of do some translations of some of the documentation. But Leonnig at one point got one of the prostitutes to recant, and the prostitute, she had a fake cedula, a fake social security number, and she was apparently just a fake prostitute. So they used a kind of discreditation campaign against us. And I sent somebody down to get documentation showing both on the courts deal and on this deal that this was in fact true. And so it's very exciting. And I don't want to go on too long because I know there are lots of questions and I could filibuster all night. So I want to be careful.
Are people asking you questions on Twitter?
People have asked me questions in email. Reporters have asked me questions about it.
So what do you think about? I mean, on Twitter, and it seems like there's a lot of people who are saying, "Oh, this is payback from the White House," and that this is that Menendez crossed Valerie Jarrett, and that's the reason that this is coming out now. What do you think about all of that kind of rhetoric?
Well, let me kind of give you like some background here. So I knew that the whole thing was wrapped in July. Actually early August, late July, early August. And I knew that they were basically waiting for an opportunity to spring it. Now, obviously, they didn't want to spring it when the Democrats could still have control of the U.S. Senate, because Menendez was chairman of the House Intelligence, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. So it would have looked really, really bad. And then when he lost, when the Republicans won, he sort of was no longer useful to the Democratic Party, and so he was sort of the ranking member in the U.S. Foreign Relations Committee, and so he wasn't useful to them anymore. Now, this story was wrapped a while ago. I mean, people have known about this. I'm not alone in knowing about it. Lots of kind of intelligence people have known about it. Lots of kind of conservative researchers out there have known about it. Many of them have worked with me on it, and we've known this for quite a long time. So the question is, the timing is really interesting. It's right around the time of the Iran deal. Menendez went to AIPAC recently and basically criticized the president's plan. Now, all of these people are saying, oh, well, he's like a Scoop Jackson Democrat. He's like, strong against the war on terror kind of stuff. Not so fast. The truth about Menendez is he's always used these kind of sanctions-like regimes to basically restrict access to countries that are problematic, and he's done things like the Ecuadorian deal, where he basically shook down these Ecuadorian nationals for campaign contributions. And what he does is he always uses his kind of position as the Democrat who's against Obama as leverage politically. He doesn't really have any political thought behind him. But he's been able to convince a lot of predominantly Jewish American donors, a lot of Jewish American activists, that he's sort of one of them on this issue. He's not. He's been sort of all over the place on the Iran deal. And if you look at him, the New York Times, of all places, 2 years ago was calling, as he was being investigated by the FBI, was calling for him to step down as U.S. Foreign Relations Chairman. So I don't really buy a lot of the conspiracy theories. Obviously, the Obama people are very good about timing. They've always been very good about it. And so naturally, this is a great way to kind of deflect. But it is interesting that he did it on a Friday afternoon. They could have done it earlier in the week if they really wanted the fireworks to go. And I think it's revealing that they waited as long as they did.
What do you think the implications are, or do you have any comment about the if he does resign, that puts Chris Christie in a kind of an interesting position as far as nominating a new senator for the.
No, I would agree, and I think the only person I think who could be properly nominated and who would be the right choice would be Steve Lonegan. Of course, I'm a bit biased. I did work. Full disclosure, I did work for Steve Lonegan as a researcher. I was a fan of his when he was long before he was paying me. He paid me a nominal amount, and long after he stopped paying me, I've been a fan of his. He's the real deal, and he has called out the culture of corruption that exists in Trenton and New Jersey. He's called out both parties for it. And as Chris Christie himself is being investigated, I think that the proper thing for him to do is not to put somebody there as a placeholder, but to put somebody there who's the real deal. And unfortunately, New Jersey is one of the most corrupt states in the union. Both parties are pretty corrupt. And the only guy who really exists out there who's not corrupt and who's not a criminal is Steve Lonegan. Now, of course, Chris Christie may well not do that because Lonegan is sort of more Tea Party, more anti-establishment than is Chris Christie, obviously. And Christie will probably try and use this position, if not in the same way Blagojevich did, which is of course criminal, in Illinois, but he may well use this position to advance his own interests ahead of his own dealings with indictments and with Bridgegate.
Yep, got it. All right. Well, do you have any other comments about this Bob Menendez thing?
I think what it shows is that the independent journalism is kind of replacing the mainstream media, which basically just covers accusations. So, for instance, when Menendez had spent $2 million in his own legal defense, which is not exactly the kind of money you spend when you're innocent, particularly when you're a U.S. senator. And it's amazing to me how many journalists just go and take whatever the claims are from Menendez or from others affiliated with him. It's amazing that they just do that without thinking. They are totally uncritical about any of the claims made. And it's also very interesting hearing from a number of reporters who knew parts of this story, people who were at the New York Times, people who were at the Washington Post, who said that I was right, said I was onto stuff, but they couldn't report it. And that to me is really kind of disturbing and really kind of creepy. And I think as time goes on, this ability to kind of marginalize players like me, players like Got News, will dissipate, because as time goes on, you can't ignore the number of successes we've already had at Got News, and you could steal them, which is kind of the phase we're in right now. But we're increasingly influential, and I would say, when I worked with the Caller on this, I was a contributor to the Caller, so I wasn't able to respond to a lot of things being said about the work. I just couldn't do it, and that was really frustrating, to put it mildly, because when you work with somebody else, you can't land the 1-2 punch that you want to have. You're oftentimes stuck, and how would I put this? You're basically at the mercy of another person's view on what the news is. So you can't follow the threads all the way through. With the Cory Booker story, this is a similar kind of thing. Like, BuzzFeed did the obligatory pushback of, oh, we claim to see his rental agreements, even though they never published the rental agreements. The BuzzFeed kind of claims, to basically debunk it with that. And I had a story ready to go to rebut it, but the Daily Caller didn't want to rebut it. They had gotten their pushback, and they just sort of took the pushback. And that's why we created Got News. At least why I created Got News, because I think it's important to really fight this sincerely and hard, and to really push and really game it out, because the left-wing kind of 20th century media is oftentimes the biggest impediment to these things going out there. And it's too bad. It's too bad that they've decided to basically be stenographers for power rather than to hold power accountable. And it's too bad that the right now is doing the whole conspiracy theory stuff about Iran and about Obama and all this. I'm sure that played a role in it because of the timing of it. But this is a story that we've known for like going on 3 years, and it continues to be kind of disturbing and unfold. The stuff we did a while ago about Menendez with his married girlfriend and how he directed all this state money to her, that we did at Got News, should have gotten a lot more play and a lot more attention. The New York Post picked it up a little bit, but people wanted to basically defend Menendez, and that's kind of sick and gross, and we should call it out.
Terrific. Well, good job, Charles, on this story.
Well, we're going to do, if people want to support the work we do, obviously we have a donate button. Obviously we're looking for more investors. We have more technology that, Peter, you want to help, you're developing with me. And so we're going to continue to do this kind of stuff, and kind of like, even if we take it on the chin, even if we're made into pariahs, because, people deserve the truth, and somebody's got to do it, so it might as well be us. And if they don't, then we should just give up and just become a third world country like the Dominican Republic or like Iran or any of these other players out there.
Good enough, Charles. All right. Well, thanks for doing a good job.
Chat soon. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.